Liberty is dear to my heart. I cannot endure the thought that my countrymen should be slaves. Revolutionary War veteran Samuel Harris.
Hello, I'm Colin Powell, and I was an American soldier for 35 years. I was a Black American soldier, and I followed in a long tradition of Black men and women who have served this nation since long before our Revolutionary War. For so many years, they served their nation without their nation ever serving them. They served because they believed in this nation. They believed in the promise of our democracy. They believed in what the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution said. But for so many years, they were denied the rights and the privileges that other Americans enjoyed. Their story isn't well known. Their story was suppressed. Historians did not write about it well enough. But there's a wonderful story. It is the story of a group of Americans who never lost their love of this country, never lost their faith in what the Founding Fathers had promised. And that's why this story is simply called For Love of Liberty.
To the war has gone. No ranks of death. You find his father's song has heard it all. And his wild heart son, he hung his head. Shall serve you, so and break free. The song made for the pure and free. That shall never sound never again.
The record of this nation's African American servicemen and women is a heroic story draped in irony. Why, despite enormous injustice, did these determined individuals fight so valiantly for freedoms they themselves did not enjoy? The answer to this question can be found in the letters, diaries, thoughts, and reflections of those who were there. Their words are relevant to every American and speak of courage, honor, duty, and sacrifice for love of liberty. I'm Halle Berry, and this is their story.
Wow, what a fantastic clip. It's an honor to be here on the stream. My name's Shoni Dale. I'm a student mentor. I've been working with Dakar and for the past 3 years, and it's so cool to see how things have grown and progressed over the years from a couple of students working together with Kevin to just all these wonderful, beautiful, amazing, talented people coming together to share their knowledge, to share their skills, and to share their experiences on not just mentorship, but also on history and also on digital content curation and technology. It's an accumulation of so much talent, time, and dedication. So I'm glad to be here, and I'm very grateful that we've been able to put all this together. So thanks for having me. And let me go ahead and pass this on to my co-host here for this little conversation we're about to have, to Arnold Gordon Bray, General Arnold Gordon Bray. If you would, sir, please introduce yourself. Oh, you're on mute, sir. Oh.
Sometimes you got to be smarter than technology that you're playing with. First of all, thank you very much, Shoni. I'm very glad to be here, and very glad to have this conversation with those who are willing to listen. I spent some time listening to Sequoia, who I've known and been back and forth with in various times through Dakar, as a matter of course, and I heard what he was talking about. And the great irony is that he is part of the nation's informational capacity, and because of what he's doing and the things he's working with, all of this is an intersectional discussion. As we celebrate African American History Month, and this particular segment of time is being set aside to try to address some of the key concerns: mentorship, being involved in the media, telling the story from the perspective of those who are making the history itself. And we'll get to some of those folks who've been critical. But the first thing is, everybody talks about being in the room. Being in the room. It's access. I love Hamilton because he is one of my favorite parts is where Aaron Burr is pissed off because he watched history change around him, but he was so critical to it, and he's thinking that, wow, if I'd have just been in the room where the discussions were taking place. Well, African Americans have been considered not in the room for a long time. And the reason why was not so much reality. It was the media that captured it. And the information that was presented and how it's presented. History written down. History written down is pretty good. History captured, the visual is where the problems lie, especially the visual. And that clip, and that clip you just showed is a 5-minute segment, by the way, of about 6 hours that was culled down from over 10,000 hours to
oh my God.
10,000 hours to make it one. First of all, and it is weathered the storm of authenticity through the Air Force and the Army's historians. And the naval stamp didn't get there yet because it was so long. And naval included. It was so much of it is made by Army forces. So anyhow, but that talks about getting, because all it really is about is, first of all, the struggle to full citizenship and the platform for the future. And so the whole goal of you and I in this conversation is to make sure that curmudgeons like me don't make it a conversation all about the past, but more about the future and the promise better. And so, so one of the things I hope we'll do here, and I hope some folks will chime in and ask some and make the questions difficult, make them difficult, because I was trained to do that. Like I said, one of the things that I remember, from combat was I was in Iraq, and some of my guys were holed up in a school, and my company commander, Captain Davis, when I drove up, he told me which way to come into the area, and I came into the area and I looked out and I saw this mob, a couple hundred folks, and we had almost that same amount of media. And he said, "Sir, we just go right on inside." And I said, "Wow, what's going on?" He said, "Well, sir, we had a shootout." I said, "Well, tell me what happened." And he explained to me. He said, "Well, sir, we actually killed some civilians." I said, "Okay, tell me how you killed the civilians and what transpired." Basically, he said, "Sir, there were 7 specific locations where Iraqis came in with weapons and they were firing from these locations, and my guys returned fire to kill them." I said, "Okay." He said, "Sir, we hit civilians." I said, "Okay." I said, "But you were returning fire?" "Yes, sir." And so I saw the sites. I said, "Okay, take me right to the crowd." He said, "Sir, there's a lot of media out there." I said, "Then we've got to tell the story." And I said, "Now how?" And he said, "Okay." So I said, "Is anything that you told me incorrect or unverifiable?" He said, "Sir, no, sir, we're good." So I went to tell the story. And I had one gentleman who was in the middle of the crowd. He was clearly the agitator. In fact, we were able to validate later on that he was actually part of Al-Qaeda, working inside of the forces, and he was a part of a Sharia sect. Actually, excuse me. He was part of the Sharia sect, not Al-Qaeda, and that was working with some forces to be disruptive.
Right.
And some of the media were, anti-American. That's okay. That's okay. And so we told our story, and then we validated, and then we had some soldiers walking, and people said, "Do you trust them?" I said, "Absolutely," because those are my guys. I trained them to. I said, "Don't lie. You can say anything, just don't lie."
Mm.
And then we checked the hospitals. So we got our story, and all of a sudden the crowd started to dissipate. See, Iraqis they're used to people dying. What they're not used to people is telling them lies and trying to get away with it.
Right.
And I acknowledged, I said, there were 21 civilians that we know of that were shot as part of this process. I got the weapons and the bodies for the guys who had the weapons.
Mm.
So we had done that, and we dissipated. So telling the truth is where we are right now in history. We're trying to get our stories straight.
Yes.
We're trying to get American history correct. And by the way, if we get it right, don't lie, don't elevate it, don't make it, don't try to say that no kidding that the first guy that stepped on the moon was actually a black guy.
Yeah. No, you don't want to tell no tall tales.
Yeah, we're not gonna do that.
Yeah.
We're gonna tell the truth. And by the way,
because
when African American history first started, Carter Woodson, he actually tried to elevate history a little bit to jumpstart it.
Yeah, no, it's just not something you should do.
And you can imagine what happened, because all of a sudden now there was an effort to discredit all of that work, all of that great work that was actually being done.
Yeah,
so anyhow,
it's what I like about not just only the talking points you're talking about, because it's all very relevant. Because when it comes to representation, even when it comes to film or media in particular, just from a background standpoint, it's all about the perspective. It's all about the angle. It's all about how you're telling the story. And especially in this digital age, it's all about the visuals. It's all about, well, how much of it are you going to show? For how long are you showing it? And then you're switching to the next thing to kind of guide your audience down this path, down this visual narrative. And so I definitely could see how history can be written in such a way, or visually told in such a way, where it's misrepresenting the truth. And so I love that you also gave such a solid experience from your own experience during the war and your time out there, because it's very important to know that telling the truth and presenting it in a truthful manner is the right way to go. There might be repercussions, but it's so much easier than lying about it, getting caught in a lie later on, and then just the whole foundation just shakes and crumbles. Everything you built, poof, gone. It's better
What's the worst trait that a liar can have?
Whew. I'd say it's the elevation, like we were talking about earlier. It's like bad memory, that too. Yes, I can see that. Because if you can't remember your lies, you're in trouble.
So authenticity, and this really goes back also to, the folks who talk about mentoring.
Yeah.
A key trait is being authentic. Being authentic.
It is.
Making sure, and by the way, that's also a trait of a leader.
It is.
You better have that right, because tough news is okay, but it never gets better with age. It never gets better with age. And so, as we start to talk about our history, it's important that we're authentic. We talk about it from great spaces. And that clip that you saw, I talked about who validated it, because one, it had to go through a lot of scrutiny. Do you remember the Faith of Our Fathers, the capture of Iwo Jima that was done by Clint Eastwood? And he said, why were there no African Americans in that? And he said, because there weren't any at Iwo Jima. Well, one of the things that clip does is it does some dramatization, by the way, but it's very little. But usually it's only because there was no film at certain places. But in any cases where there was film, like for instance, the combat cameras that were at Iwo Jima, it showed the mortarmen and the ammo bearers, Marines, who were actually there at Iwo Jima. That should have been part of that narrative.
Wow.
More importantly, and equally important, the raising of the flag was taken from an African-American cook who provided the shaft for them to put the flag on to raise it, which, by the way, was principally raised by a naval corpsman, which is a naval medic. He was the first person, and the cameraman said, "Can you do that again?" And that's when everybody raced up to be in the photo.
That is crazy cool.
You see,
and General Bray, like, if I may, I just want to say, every time I have a conversation with you, I feel like I learn 20 to 30 new facts about history that blows my mind, and about relevant things that are not only seen in movies and pop culture, but are also seen as iconic when it comes to like films as well. Can't tell you the amount of times I've seen that photo of all the soldiers raising that flag on the hill. We only have a minute left, and so what I like to do in closing to this is just sort of wrap up. What's the main takeaway that we would like to impart with our viewers? And what I want to add to that, to kind of circle and tie in everything that was discussed here in this conversation, this brief moment in history, is that, not only from the mentorships and the representation and the truth, is that it all comes down to these four simple steps to really be the best version of yourself, to really be the best mentor, the best student, best anything, is to be it in order to do it, in order to have it, in order to share it. And you are truly the embodiment of that. You did it. You were being it. You went out. You did it, and then now you have it. You have the experiences, and now you're here on this conversation. You're able to share it. And so that's really like the full circle. I feel like when it comes to anything you're trying to achieve in life, can be boiled down to those four traits. And that's why I would like to leave as a takeaway. Is there anything else that you would like to leave as a takeaway? You've left so many great nuggets of just inspiration.
Well, in short order, and I can't do it in 1 minute, but I can say this to you. It's African American History Month. The military has allowed or enabled us to demonstrate our investment of blood so that we could be not just in the room, but at the table. Because if you're not at the table, you're on the menu.
Indeed. 100%. And you just gotta go out there and do it like the meme. Just do it. General Bray, this has been it's been a pleasure. I hope that we get to have more conversations like this. Thank you, sir.